What are you, trying to kill diabetics? Well, I've made a new discovery on my personal fucking ketogenic / intermittent fasting journey. Something that I had not previously come across was, does keto adaptation and intermittent fasting fuck you over when it comes to carb consumption? What led me on this path, my personal anecdotal evidence, is since I've started this cyclical ketogenic diet, I've carved up 3 or 4 times. I think it was 4 times now. The most massive of which was literally this weekend, in which I gained 6 pounds. Most of that's water weight, maybe a pound of fat in there. But I've noticed each time I've carved up that things I used to eat quite often, like pizza and, pastries and cakes and cookies and, that kind of stuff, I used to tolerate, I'd get the energy dip associated when I would eat that, but generally I tolerated it pretty well. Now when I eat this shit, my goddamn energy levels drop to some fucking low level that I've never experienced before. And sometimes I feel a little bit nauseous. Sometimes I feel a little bit shitty. And it's when I do these carb ups. And it takes me a good day or so to get back to normal. And also with my girlfriend, I noticed her blood sugar when, while we're doing keto and intermittent fasting, her blood sugar is, in the 120s in the morning, in the 80s and 90s in the afternoon before her dinner. And her A1C was recently, their doctor declared that she's no longer diabetic or pre-diabetic. But we both do our cheat days together. This most recent cheat day being, something she wanted to do, ended up being a cheat weekend. But what we noticed is her blood sugar would shoot up when she did these cheat days, and it shot up pretty good. We're talking in the 230 to 240 range, with these carb ups. And this is, higher. It scared her because it's higher than she ever used to go. Turns out I started to do some reading and some, combing through forums for other people experiencing this issue. What happens is when you start doing the keto adaptation and you become adapted to low carb, you develop a physiological insulin resistance. It's not a permanent thing. It's only while you're adapted to burning fat. So what happens is say you are sitting there, you've been doing your 30 grams of carbs a day for however fucking long, and your body has adjusted to it, and your energy levels are up, you're not having hunger and craving issues, you're feeling good, and then you go along and you fuck that up with a large pizza with 10 fucking donuts and a goddamn cookies up the ass, and fucking, you just go nuts on a nice fucking long ass carb binge. So you do that, and all of a sudden you feel nauseous, you feel fucked up, you feel like you can't even fucking move, you feel destroyed. And if you check your blood sugar, it's going to be a lot higher than it was before. This is for diabetics. For me personally, I checked my blood sugar, and sure enough, fed, I was 120, which is a little high for me. Well, not 120, I'm sorry, 112, which is a little high for me. But then I checked my fasting the next day, even though we were still cheating we were still carbing, and I was 75, in the morning, fasted. So I don't have the same issues, but I do experience the feeling like shit and, the huge weight gain and stuff. I think when I consume carbs now, because of the way I have my diet, I gain weight at an accelerated rate. So, what does this mean exactly? This means, yes, it's temporary. And yes, it can be, I think that level of blood sugar increase can be, fucked up. So the question is the question I want to address mainly, I don't think it's safe for a diabetic to do a cyclical ketogenic diet. Either one or the other. Either you're ketogenic or you're trying to do it with carbs in your life and not go on ketogenic. You can't keep a lot of carbs in your life. But what ended up happening as the weekend went on and we continued our carb cheating, her blood sugar started to drop down into 140, 160 range, into that area. And so it started to normalize. We had the initial spike of 240s, 250s in that area on the very first day. And then this 2 subsequent days of eating whatever the fuck we wanted, her blood sugar went down to 150s and 160s. And for me, I felt like total horse shit the first day. The second day, it was okay, a little rundown. And the third day, still run down. And still run down today. I'm back on keto and fasting. So basically what happens is your insulin levels, when you first start eating, carbs, and you overload the system with the crap, I don't think you produce enough insulin to offset the blood sugar, because your body's like, okay, well, we're eating again. Well, we're probably not going to eat carbs again this time. He hasn't been eating carbs in fucking who knows how long. So it doesn't pump out a shit ton of insulin at first. And yet, we're still insulin resistant. I feel I am, and I know my girlfriend is. So we get this huge blood sugar spike, not enough insulin to put it where it belongs, and the blood sugar accumulates and goes way up. This is not an isolated phenomenon. It's something that I've seen all over the place. Now, some of the vegan doctors will be like, oh, this is the fat causing it. No, this is, having witnessed what I witnessed and read what I read, this is a transient condition, as in it will go away if you continue to consume carbs. It basically means we can't switch back and forth between carbs and fat burning mode efficiently. We can't do it like on a dime. As you know, when you try to keto adapt, it takes you 3 weeks before you stop feeling like shit. It's the same way when you're keto adapted and you switch back to high carb. You are going to feel like shit at first. And if you're diabetic, your blood sugar is going to go higher than it used to. And then gradually normalize as your pancreas catches up and pumps more insulin into your system and your baseline insulin levels rise. So, I guess the take home from this video that I wanted to get across is keep that in mind if you're going to do cheat days and you want to do this diet, that there is an adjustment period. And my advice for pre-diabetics and diabetics, I'm not a fucking expert, I've warned you throughout this, would be to do a gradual carb up. I don't know that you can just do a cheat day and be safe. I would say, okay, instead of 50 grams, maybe do 100 grams of carbs for the day, and that's your cheat day. If you absolutely have to binge, well, then take a week off and work your way up. Don't just fucking slam the system. Don't go from 30 grams a day of carbs all the way up to 500. It's a recipe for high blood sugar levels. Is it dangerous for a 1 or 2 day high blood sugar issue? I'm not seeing any damage from that. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an endocrinologist. I'm not a diabetic nutritionist or any of that bullshit. In my opinion, if it was happening to me, I probably would just suck it up because, I'm a risk taker, I guess. But I just wanted to make sure to get this out there. as we kind of discovered it on our own, that as you're keto adapted, as you low carb, high fat, and you become used to that, and your body is, in that mode, you just can't switch back easily without some kind of consequences. Now, if you're healthy and you don't have diabetic insulin resistant levels, then you're likely just going to feel like extra shit. More shit than you would normally have felt, back in the day when you ate whatever the fuck you wanted and you just fasted. So that's what I've noticed. That's why I'm going to try and cut back on my personal cheat days, to almost just to special occasions only, to where it's a holiday or a party or something, and we'll go and partake in that. And even still, if I can try and avoid carbing up, I plan on it. I don't want to jeopardize my progress or end up taking a week or two of recovery. For all I know, I unadapted with this 3-day deal because as it was going on, I was becoming more tolerant of the carbs I was eating. And I know if I continued, I would be back to where I was before with the hunger and cravings. Still I could probably maintain my body weight plus 6 pounds for the water and glycogen that you hold. But overall, I think, I would have set myself back pretty far if I continued with the carb rampage. So yes, I regained about 5.5, 6 pounds. I don't know, it remains to be seen. This is only Monday, and I just, the first day. Doing an alternate day fasting protocol with fat, 600 calories of fat only on my fasting days, and then my feed days, which will be tomorrow, will be normal ketogenic diet, no more than 50 grams of carbs per day on my feed days. And if it, I'm not be a Nazi about it. If I go a little over, I go over. If I go a little under, I go under. But roughly, because obviously depleting myself completely on one day, it doesn't matter if I go over 50 a little the next day. Not shooting for 50. So, and that's where I want to be. That's actually, I feel that's what my body wants. My body wants me to eat this diet. That's what I think it's telling me. It's telling me, look, I'm used to running efficiently this way. At 50 grams is plenty of carbs, for your body to function. And, you don't need 500 grams of fucking carbs in your life. You don't. Because you can't even fucking store that much. Did you know that? For these fucking motherfuckers, like the banana lady that eats fucking hundreds of fucking bananas, you know what? You're just making fat. That's what you're doing. Once you fill your glycogen, all the carbs you eat, no matter where they came from, no matter how fucking awesome the carb source or how low GI or high GI, it doesn't fucking matter. Your glycogen's full, you're making fat. It's really that simple. So unless you're exercising every day, fucking couple times a day, which most people I know aren't, especially the vegans I see. I don't see them in the gym pounding the fuckmaster all the time. Unless you're constantly depleting your glycogen through exercise, any excess carbs you consume per the day becomes fat. And we're not talking a good fat. We're talking heart attack fat. So before you go off and say, fat makes you fat, fat makes insulin resistance, fat does this, fat's bad for you. No. Carbs are bad for you. And what this proves isn't that fat is bad for you, and it proves that you can't switch back and forth. You have to either be at your carb tolerance and not be in ketosis, or be in ketosis and keep your carbs under 50 grams. Switching back and forth between being ketogenic and non-ketogenic adapted is a process, and that's a two-way process. So it takes 3 to 6 weeks to become keto adapted. I contend it takes probably half the time, I would think, depending on how fucked up you are. I would say at least 2 weeks to be adapted to carbs again. So that's the price we pay for being healthier, for being able to lose weight while not being hungry and not pounding the fuckmaster all the time. Is, yeah, you can do your cheat day, but it's gonna suck. You're gonna feel like shit. Your brain's gonna love it. You know, your brain's like, yep, give me the drugs. Give me the fucking, yep, like the sugar, the fructose, yep, stuff that shit in me. But your body's gonna be like, what the fuck are you doing to me? I mean, Jesus Christ, will you make up your fucking mind and just eat fucking the same shit so I don't have to fucking keep rewiring everything to fucking work properly? So that's what you should keep in mind if you decide to keto adapt. Otherwise, just do your intermittent fasting and try and willpower your way through the hunger and cravings, and you can still lose weight, you know, that way. You probably won't still be the healthiest, but hey, it's a trade-off. You know, a lot of people don't want to give up the drug of sugar, and they're willing to pay the health price. As long as you know that, I'm fine. As long as you have the knowledge and you're not fooling yourself. You know, I knew this 3-day carb up was bad for me. Trust me. I knew that I wasn't doing myself any favors. I was probably pounding tons of fat around my liver, you know, which is where I'm holding all my fat. So that's what I wanted to get out there. My girlfriend, I don't know, she might be scared off of this diet. I myself, you know, having done some reading and some research and seeing what other people's experiences were when they came across these things, and the consensus is it's just temporary. It's like the first fucking time you carb up is the worst, and then it gradually goes back to normal if you continue to carb up. Also, one carb up does not derail your keto adaptation. So that's what I've come to share. If you think I'm wrong or you have another theory, you know, this is just a fucking theory because I'm not a goddamn expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. But if you have another theory or another hypothesis or another experience, or you've experienced the same fucking thing, leave it in the comments below. And I plan on doing a feedback show probably in the next day or two, where I address questions, comments, insults, and anything else that catches my fucking eye. Till then, I'm not an expert, just an asshole. Have a nice fucking day.